H.P. Lovecraft's body of work is not an unfamiliar one, with a recurring theme revolving around the fear of the unknown. It serves as an immense inspiration for a lot of modern-day pop fiction, spread over many forms of media. Lovecraft's influence in the cosmic horror genre is something that is very layered in its presentation over the years, meaning the direct reference may not be apparent every time you encounter an otherworldly creature, but upon further inspection of the roots, a Lovecraftian influence is always there. The adaptation of Lovecraft's stories and creatures into some iconic works has taken him from being an obscure name during his era to a celebrated author by horror fans around the world today. Best known for his creation of the Cthulhu mythos, the cosmic entity is imprisoned in a sunken corpse city of Erlier under the ocean, waiting for humanity to abandon civilization so the monster can rise and regain control of the planet. Cthulhu was introduced in the short story The Call of Cthulhu, written in 1926 and published in 1928. The gigantic entity worshipped by cultists that is a hybrid of an octopus, dragon, and a human form. Cthulhu is considered a great old one with the pantheon of Lovecraftian cosmic entity and has since been featured in numerous pop culture references. He is worshipped by a cult and can influence reality with his dreams. Today, we take a look at the first issue of a graphic novel adaptation with the same name and do a deep dive into the events of the story. Marvelous Videos brings to you Lovecraft, The Call of Cthulhu 2023 Comic Explained. Let's jump right into it. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. The Diary of H.P. Lovecraft. We see a mob wielding pitchforks and torches at the shore of a sea. From a distant past, at an unknown location, the mighty Cthulhu rises from the ocean slowly, stands on his feet, and starts tearing down on them by the time the mob realizes the enormous size of the monster. He stomps on the mob first with his giant hands and then demolishes a lighthouse nearby with a swift motion. And then we realize that the action has been going on in Henry's mind as he illustrates the scene in his book using a pencil. Henry Lovecraft, the grandson of Howard Lovecraft, is down in the monastery library and is joined by Spencer Holmes, who is critical of the fact that he ever doubted he was Lovecraft's grandson. She assures him his grandfather would be proud of him. Just then, the death goddess Ceres approaches them, expressing her doubts about what Spencer just said. She places on the table a giant book with a thud that reads, The Diary of H.P. Lovecraft, on the hardcover. She goes on to explain that it was one of Henry's grandfather's diary and contains details of the formative years of his life that caused him to write what is now known as the Cthulhu mythos. As she slides over the book to Henry, he goes through a few pages quickly and realizes that he's inherited his grandfather's drawing skills as well, along with his knack for horror storytelling. Spencer swiftly grabs the diary out of Henry's hands when she realizes she's seen one of the monsters before, let alone fought the creature in a tomb alongside her uncle Pritchard and Jax. Henry requests the diary back in order to peacefully peruse it, as Ceres reminds them of the knowledge to be gained from the diary. She also tells Henry that although many consider his grandfather's writings to be fiction, his work contains many truths. The ritual to bring Cthulhu flayers to Earth. Henry takes the diary and starts to read it from the middle, which makes him jump right into the middle of his grandfather secretly encountering a sacred ritual conducted by the Dagon and Cthulhu priests combined. The presence of the Cthulhu flayers on Earth is vital for them to call upon their master, Idia, Cthulhu's mate and half-sister. A human in chains on a sacrifice table bleeds to death with a group of cultists in robes surrounding him, as Senior Lovecraft, terrified to his core, observes from the shadows and documents everything in his book. Just then, Henry is interrupted by Spencer. She insists that Henry reads the whole book from the beginning and in the order of how the events occurred if he needs to learn anything from it, to which Ceres firmly agreed. The group proceeds to read the events of the diary, in which Lovecraft explains how he's been seeing dreams about horrific creatures that lurk beyond all time and space every time he goes to sleep. Lovecraft documents all the dreams and their details after waking up, which he describes as a form of automatic writing. Through his dream, he learns about creatures unknown to man and a cult preparing to unleash these creatures upon their plane of existence, an entire world of events that felt like he lived them. He wanted to make the dream stop so as to keep himself from going mad. Lovecraft goes looking for the truth. Desperate for money, Lovecraft tries to turn the visions from his dreams into short stories and sell them, but sees little to no success. This prompts him to investigate for more evidence of these events in order to discover material for his writing, a decision that brings him to Innsmouth, Massachusetts, a town that showed up repeatedly in his dream. There, he encounters a half-man and half-amphibious creature, which leads him to a place called Nameless City. All these instances were proof to Henry that his visions were not dreams. Instead, they were visions from a far-forgotten forgotten place. Excited by this discovery and burdened by the responsibility to share the knowledge with the world as a literary emissary, Lovecraft is driven to investigate this world further, leading him to the rituals to call upon the Cthulhu Flayer. In the events dated December 2nd, 1920, happening in Salem, Massachusetts, Lovecraft decides to stop the ritual at any cost, preventing the passing of otherworldly creatures about to arrive. So he pulls a gun on the cult priests and shoots them all, but it's too late. A Flayer walks out of the portal, directly towards Lovecraft, and picks him up by grabbing at his neck as he drops the gun and gasps for air. Luckily, having seen the creature before in his dream, he helps Lovecraft overcome fear and stabs the Flayer in the eye with his pen. He escaped the creature for that time, but he knew a pen couldn't save his life the next time. Lovecraft goes into hiding. In the light of his merely saved life and his helplessness in stopping the arrival of Cthulhu's mate into the world, and the subsequent end of it, Lovecraft moves away to San Francisco. Unable to find catharsis through writing anymore, Lovecraft turns into an alcoholic, desperately trying to numb his senses and get rid of the recurring horrific dream. He meets a woman named Anna and falls in love with her, but the dreams do not stop, prompting him to continue drinking, which leads to the departure of Anna from his life. He continues his descent in the alcoholic path, trailing off into a park one day and passing out under a tree. All the contents of his mind start to correlate after weeks of ill-behaved stumbling as Lovecraft lay under the tree, as a result of which he wakes up with an idea to defeat the monsters. Crystals imbued with the power of both dreams and nightmare. A crystal that he finds right next to him behind a couple of rocks where he wakes up, making him realize that it wasn't senseless wandering that led him there, but indeed was the power of his dream, guiding him to the exact moment he can find the gem. He immediately returns to New England and learns the skills of a blacksmith by reading about it in order to build the weapon needed to destroy the creatures. He was able to replenish the cartridges in his gun using the crystal, and after a tremendous amount of trial and error spread over months of hard work, Lovecraft made a gun capable of killing the monster. Lovecraft returns with a crystal gun, now equipped with a weapon capable of killing otherworldly creatures. Lovecraft heads straight to Salem, Massachusetts, where he encounters the half-man and half-amphibian creature again. Just as he was hoping, uncertain of the result, Lovecraft takes a leap of faith and fires a shot at the creature charging at him, which blows the middle part of the creature's head, as Lovecraft stands there in absolute surprise. Several more similar creatures and cultists appear out of the thick fog, all of whom Lovecraft continues to terminate with his new weapon. He marches confidently down to where the ritual happens to encounter not one, but 4 Cthulhu Flayers, all at the end of their ritual. He watches the mate of Cthulhu, Idia, step out of the portal as the Flayers suspiciously call her upon, and fear gets the best of him. Overwhelmed by the horrific sight he was experiencing, which was far more abhorrent than any of his dreams, Lovecraft stood immobilized as intrusive thoughts took authority over his body. Just then, another idea pops into his head. He realized the crystal he was carrying was much more powerful than his mind taking over the body, and it was time to unleash that power. Unable to think of any other option, he flings the crystal at the creature, which rolls to the center of where the group is standing and takes a shot right at it, causing a huge explosion that obliterates all the monsters to pieces, including Idia. Lovecraft walks amidst the scattered pieces of the dead monster, now in full realization of the powerful boon granted by his dream, and picks the remaining piece of the crystal to safety. Henry, Spencer, and Carries finish reading the story out of the diary. Another gemstone. Henry realizes that his grandfather's weapons are the only way to fight the danger to come, and the remaining piece of the crystal, being just a fraction of the power his gun can handle, is not enough. Carries gives him an idea, saying that his grandfather, being a historian, might have information about another crystal, a theory Henry quickly invests himself in and starts to rifle through the pages of the diary, hoping to find relevant information. Spencer scoffs at Henry for not letting her help as Carries finds their bickering childish. Henry exclaims in triumph as he locates information in the diary of an additional crystal his grandfather had dreamt about. It is not particularly well detailed, but he concludes the crystal seems to be somewhere in Turkey, just as another horrific realization dawns on him. The drawing of a hideous tentacled monster with many eyes and rows of sharp teeth standing over a heap of human skulls. The abhorrent creature is called Nil Grimiger La, the All-Seeing, and it stands guard for the additional crystal in Turkey. Marvelous verdict. The Call of Cthulhu can be considered one of the earliest examples of cosmic horror, a subgenre of horror that deals with the themes of an unfeeling universe against the insignificance of the human race, a common theme in Lovecraft's work. The short story also deals with themes like the dangers of modern science and creativity influenced by dreams, and is famous for launching one of the most recognizable monsters in all of Lovecraft's mythos, the titular Cthulhu. The first issue of the graphic novel serves as a well-paced and intriguing setup for the exciting story to come, besides being an absolute visual treat, bringing the creatures and their horror to life. Thank you for joining us on the rundown of the Call of Cthulhu 2023 comic, and stay tuned to Marvelous Videos for more coverage on Cthulhu. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one, and be safe. Thanks, everyone.